Hi everybody. He set out in search of someone to save. Expeditious climbed for 3. That is happened with Barack Obama, and Hi everybody, and welcome back to another video. So Ariel Bissett just posted a video doing the Stay Home Reading Rush book tag, which is a tag that they're doing as part of the Reading Rush, which is next week. And I am planning to participate in that, and I really wanted to do the tag as well before I got started because the questions have to do with your TBR as well. So I figured I would just go ahead and do that tag now, and yeah, to get all prepped for next week's Reading Rush. So the first question is, how is your reading going while staying home? Honestly, last month in March, I read so many books. I think 21 books or 22 books, and it was a very, very productive reading month for sure, especially because only, I don't know, 3/4 or a half of it was in quarantine. So, yeah, I got a lot of reading done. However, recently, the past, I don't know, 2 weeks of April, I haven't gotten barely any reading done. I think it's because I'm like partway through several books and I can't seem to finish anything. But also, I often rely on audiobooks in terms of getting all of those books read, and I feel like I just haven't been motivated to listen to audiobooks because, I'm often baking or cooking and doing things where I could listen to audiobooks, but I just haven't been in the mood, which is very strange for me. But I think that has to do with everything that we're dealing with right now, and I just can't keep myself focused on anything. So I guess kind of both good and bad in terms of how I'm doing with my reading at home. Where have you been reading at home is the second question. Here in my room on my bed is the primary place that I read, but I also have a deck, and I often go out there with a blanket and set up shop and just read and, sip on a tea or something. Whenever it's nice outside, I try to get outside and read as much as possible because it can get a little, I guess, lonely and, I don't know, kind of depressing just being in your room all the time. So I try to get outside also, but I don't really read a lot in the main living spaces because I have a very small house and I live with my family, so it's hard to kind of get quiet, and I really need that quiet and certain level of like being alone in order to focus on reading. So I'll either read up here or I'll read outside. All right. The third question is the best book you've read during isolation. So I know I've talked about this book before, but it is Wish Tree by Katherine Applegate. I buddy read this book with my mom during isolation. It was one of the first books that I read during isolation, and we read it together. And I loved this book so much. It's about a tree, and the tree speaks. All trees in the story speak, and the animals speak, and it's a whole community basically in this tree of all these different animals that wouldn't typically live together. And the tree notices a family moving into the neighborhood that it watches over, and this family is Muslim, and everyone else in the community is really aggressive towards them. Someone carves the word leave into the tree, the main character, and it just follows the story of how the tree is able to connect that family to the rest of the community. I won't go into more detail, I won't spoil it, but it's really, really cute and really beautiful. Yeah, definitely my favorite one that I read during isolation. All right, so the next question is, what's your favorite feel-good book? So this is kind of hard because I feel like a lot of the books that I really love and make me feel good are kind of sad. Like, as I was looking through my shelves, all of my favorite books that bring me comfort are all really sad. So I don't know if I should recommend a sad book, but one book that I will say is a bit sad but also very nostalgic to me is The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. I'm sure most of you have read this book as a kid, and it's still a book where I feel like if I need a pick-me-up or if I need some kind of sentimental, I don't know, warmth in my life, I think I would pick up this book because it's so beautiful, it's so simple, but still makes you feel so wonderful at the end. And it's very sad at times, but in the end, it gives you a sense of peace. And I think, especially during these times, I'm very, kind of all over the place, and something that really gives you peace and centers you, I think, is a great thing to have in your life. All right, moving on. The next question is, book you wish you could buy or borrow from the library. So I feel very trapped with the books that I have. I do have a lot of books that I can read on my shelves, books that I haven't read, and I could always reread books. But I work at a library, so I haven't been around any books or anything like that. It's definitely weird not to be at the library, either for my own picking out books or for work. But I don't really have a book that's out right now that I really want to get, but I do really want to get the new book by Elizabeth Acevedo, which is called Clap When You Land, and that comes out on May 5th, I believe. And the reason that I say that this is the book that I want to get the most is that, one, Acevedo is one of my all-time favorite authors, and two, I don't know if we're going to be out of quarantine by May 5th. My birthday's on May 2nd. I would love to be out of quarantine by my birthday, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But that's the book that I most want, and I have not pre-ordered it, so I might not end up getting it until after quarantine, which would be really sad. But that's the book that I definitely want the most right now. All right. And finally, the last question is author you want to shout out during this time. So, as I was just talking about Elizabeth Acevedo, this is one of the authors that I want to shout out. Actually, I'm going to mention two authors. The first, obviously, Elizabeth Acevedo. I have both the Poet X and With the Fire on High. I love both of them. But I wanted to shout her out because just the other day, she did an Instagram live reading of the Poet X, and she answered questions about it, went through her creative process, and that was really nice. And I think that authors who are really getting out there and reading parts of their books and answering questions, interacting with the people that love their books, their readers, I think that's so important right now for us to remain avid readers and for them to remain, financially stable. I think all of those things are really important. So I wanted to shout her out because, one, her book is coming out soon, and two, I think she's doing a lot of great things for her readers right now. And then the second author I wanted to point out is Caitlin Doughty. So I've mentioned Caitlin Doughty many times. This is From Here to Eternity by her. She's a mortician, and the reason I want to point her out is that she has been doing a lot of content recently on her YouTube channel, Ask a Mortician, as well as her Instagram about coronavirus, and she's been talking a lot about what we can do. She's been debunking a lot of myths about bodies piling up and really scary things. And because she is a mortician, she gets to see and experience those things in a different way than maybe I do or you do. So I think that's kind of important to hear that perspective. So I love her books. I would definitely recommend her books in general, but I definitely also appreciate what she's doing to just help us and help us not be so scary during this time. And the last question, I forgot that I had to do this question, but the last question is, what's your TBR for the challenge? So the questions or the prompts that you have to fulfill for your TBR is read a book with a house on the cover. So I picked this one, which is On My Own Terms by Vasu Varadhan. And I'm counting this as a house because it is buildings, and that's the closest thing I had to a house. So I haven't read this book, but I'm super interested in it. It's a memoir, so I'm planning on reading that. And I'm also planning on reading Raising Demons by Shirley Jackson. And this fulfills the prompts. I'm probably going to do this one for read the same book in the same room the whole time. So I'll probably just read this whole thing in my room. And I'm also fulfilling the prompt, read a book that will make you smile, because I read the first book in this little series by Shirley Jackson and it made me smile so much. So I'm assuming this one will also make me smile. And the fourth prompt, again, it's this one, read a book that's set somewhere you want to go. So a lot of this book is set in India, and I've always wanted to travel to India. So that is my TBR. I'm not going to try to take on more than 2 books in 4 days because I just don't think it's realistic for me. But hopefully I can get these 2 books read in the reading rush. So thank you so much for watching. I am super looking forward to doing the reading rush. I'm trying to clear my schedule, get all of my schoolwork done ahead of time so that I can have the 4 days completely free. But yeah, I'm so excited to participate, and thank you for watching. Bye.